Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Oh, hello. I'm on, I've been told. How you doing? Welcome to the program. Welcome to another week. Welcome to Monday. Whoops. Okay. And welcome to Rob Rogers.
Hi, Lynn. How are you?
Rob.
I just walked in. That's all.
Yeah, we're still trying to get acclimated
I
here.
Take my jacket off.
Go ahead, do it.
Yeah.
Do it. I mean, you won't need it today. It's going to be 150 or something.
It's like
75. It's crazy.
Yeah. It has nothing to do with...
No, nothing to do with global warming.
No, not at all. Not at all. All right. Well... You're looking for some Christmas gifts? I can't think of I mean, if you're a political junkie in Pittsburgh, PA, this book, you better hold. Let me give you.
Here we go.
Looks
yeah.
silly.
Where's the?
Right
there.
there. There
we go. Yeah.
Right over my face. There it's called Mayoral Ink. It is Rob Rogers cartoons since he's been in Pittsburgh, which is a long time.
It is a long time, yeah.
I got here 3 years before you.
Okay, all right. Well, I actually arrived in '82, but I was at CMU for graduate school.
Okay, that doesn't count.
Okay, that doesn't count.
They don't count students in the census, do they?
I don't know. I don't know. I guess.
I think they count prisoners, but not students.
I was a prisoner of my student loans. You know?
Yeah, right, yeah. So... This is, so explain why you decided to do this one, because, so much of your stuff that people really talk about is about national and international issues. That's the stuff that's constantly reprinted in, the New York Times and in The Week, which I get. You're in there every week.
Yeah.
It seems.
It does seem. They're very good to me. But I guess so for my 25th anniversary, I did a book called No Cartoon Left Behind, and that was sort of the best of my stuff. And I only had one small, 2-page section showing my local stuff. So the rest of it was all national. So then after I finished that and finished touring with that book, I thought, well, I really want to do something for Pittsburgh and local and of course, I had just finished having so much fun with Luke Ravenstahl that I wanted to I wanted to compile them all. But I thought it's not right to just compile one mayor into a book. Even though I did have an exhibit at the Toonseum of all my boy mayor cartoons, but it reminded me of all the fun I had with Sophie as well. So I thought, why don't I just go back and look at all the mayors I've covered and make that the first sort of local book of Brudon Grant collection.
Well, I'll tell you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
6 of them, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
And as I point out in my foreword, 3 died while you were cartooning.
That's right.
3 succumbed.
Yeah,
might be coincidence. It might just be that they thought they couldn't figure out how to get away from. Yeah. So that's a lot, but clearly the 2 that were gifts from the gods.
Well, and they were gifts because the former mayor passed away. both of them.
Oh,
I mean,
both. So you're saying that the two great the mayors
yes.
that a cartoonist would kill.
It's
to
because neither
Sophie and Luke.
Right, neither of them actually set out to become mayor. At least not by their own volition. You know, they each all got in there by mistake. I mean, not by mistake.
But kind of, because both. It's so funny. Both were on the city council.
Right.
Both were given or voted by their fellow council persons as president of the council.
Right.
Probably, I'm not quite remembering in both cases, but not necessarily for their leadership abilities, but because of politics.
Right, because neither of them was as divisive or had too many, especially for Ravenstahl. I know this was the case. I'm not sure about Sophie.
I can't remember that either.
But for Ravenstahl, there was too much division on council, and they felt like he was sort of the least offensive because he was so young and he had just gotten there. He hadn't made any real political affiliation, so he was the one person they could all say, okay, all right, we'll vote for him.
And I think he was also the one person they could all say, we can lead him by the nose.
Exactly.
I mean,
right.
he doesn't know what
right.
the hell's going on here, so he's easy.
Right. Exactly.
So both Sophie and Luke are presidents of the council when the mayor dies.
Passes away, right.
And they're
elevated.
And
they're elevated.
That's like they're like vice presidents. They're elevated to
a heartbeat away.
And in Sophie's case, now when Sophie becomes the mayor, and I forgot about this, there was a national attention was paid. Because no other major city, this is the same thing that happened to Luke later, no other major city had a mayor, anything like
Sophie,
this, the voice,
the Jewish grandmother,
and she's old.
Yeah, I mean by most standards of politics, And
so the first cartoon you have in your Sophie section, I have to admit.
You don't remember? Which one? Which
Pat Sajak.
The Pat Sajak show.
First of all, I don't remember Pat Sajak having a show.
He had a very, very short-lived show that was an evening talk show, and I think she was the first. I think she was the first guest.
Oh my God!
Or the first week or something, but she was very early. Yeah, and
did she bomb? Is that what it was?
No. It was she was fine, but it was I think that he bombed, and he just never was able to sustain that the viewership for that show. But no, she was very funny on there, and she made some jokes, and it was fine. But I sort of used it as a way to sort of like talk about her, maybe taking the advantage of this for politics, But yeah, she was more savvy than people gave her credit for.
Quite clearly. Yeah. Quite clearly. Anyone who underestimated Sophie
would do it at their own expense.
Exactly right. Now, what's neat in the book is that Rob, first of all, if you're looking at a cartoon and you think you remember what's happened in Pittsburgh for the last 30 years, and you say, huh? Who was that? There were some people I couldn't remember.
Yeah, well, I didn't remember either.
I didn't remember.
And I drew it.
So he has little, historical explanations at the bottom of each one.
Right.
And leading into each mayor's section, you say something about them. And tell your story about that you used to lead into Sophie, about how the first time Rob Rogers ever penned a caricature of Sophie, she was just in the background as a city council?
Right.
You'd drawn the city council.
Yeah, I had drawn the whole city council, and she was just one of the people in there, and it was about one of the other people. But she called me up at the paper, and I was working for the Pittsburgh Press at the time, and she said, "Oh, Rob, I really loved your cartoon. Can I get a copy of it for my grandkids?" And so this was how it went, and she really loved him. And then
She would call you all every
and she
time.
would call. Yeah, she would leave a
'cause you would-
message sometimes on my voicemail at work. It was great.
Rob!
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I wish I could do her voice.
Because
I wish I
this
could
was,
do voices.
this was well before email or any of that
Yeah,
stuff. So,
yes. You had to call.
yeah, you had to call. So she would call, and at that point, I think I'd only drawn her about 3 or 4 times. So she'd only called like 3 or 4 times before she became
Mayor.
mayor, right? And then when she became mayor, suddenly the phone calls stopped.
Oh, I bet.
Because I was targeting her, and she was the subject of the cartoon. Now,
Did you ever get a nasty?
I never got any
really?
kind of
Not-
negative response, and I think that as I say in the book, maybe she decided that she was the mayor now, so it was too respectable to be calling the newspaper because she knew that there was a lot of coverage that we were doing, and she had to keep a distance or something. I'm not sure, or maybe she truly didn't like the cartoons.
No,
but
yeah.
But later on, after she was out of office, she told me, oh, she still loved the cartoons, and she started calling again immediately, like the next appearance. Like I put her.
You couldn't let go, Rob.
Oh, no, I could not let go. For
You
years,
could not let go.
I would bring her back like once a year into that. By that
My
time,
God,
I
they're-
had started Brood on Grant, so she was coming back into the diner, and so she started calling again. So that was good. Or writing emails.
I think I had a similar kind of experience in that she was always very nice to me until, she became mayor.
Mm-hmm.
And when I would speak of her on my radio show,
Yeah.
I heard she was really angry a few times.
Yeah.
And we'd end up at events together.
Yeah.
And
she-
she's not happy.
Right,
And it wasn't
right.
until she was not mayor anymore that we became buds.
Right. Mhm.
Yeah, then we could be friends again.
And I think that's I think that's very good that she was able to compartmentalize that way. I mean, because let's face it. I mean, Luke and I are not friends.
You're kidding!
Now, to his credit, he came to an event that we put on at the Toonseum we had a show of all of Mayor cartoons, and we even got Randy Bish and Tim Manise to do some cartoons. I mean, put their cartoons in the show. This was when we were still at the Children's Museum. The museum was, and he came down and he did a panel, and so there was Tom Murphy and Luke Ravenstahl,
Who was mayor
Yeah.
at the time.
No.
No.
Luke
Post.
was
Mayor,
mayor
yes,
at the
I'm
time.
saying
Oh, I
Luke
thought you
was
meant
mayor.
Tom
No,
Murphy was
no,
mayor.
no,
I was
no.
like, no. So they both came down, and Sophie was there. So we had 3 mayors. In fact, it was such a weird thing. It was like, I don't think these 3, and Tom said it. He said, we have never actually all been together in the same room before.
Wow.
The 3 of them. So it was a pretty remarkable event. It was very, it was a small thing, but they all showed up.
So,
And anyway, he was very gracious. Luke was, and he said, first it ruffled his feathers a little bit, but then he was okay. This was about a year in, so.
from the moment he became mayor,
Yes,
you drew him as a little boy.
that's right.
You
That's
never
right. No.
drew him as a full-blown...
No, every other politician always goes through some sort of transformation with me because I usually don't know that much about them at first, and I try to get their caricature down, and that caricature I even, in that other cartoon book that we were talking about, I show the progression of for instance, of George W. Bush's ears as the years went on. They got bigger and
Bigger
bigger.
and bigger.
His eyes got smaller, and the caricature got much more biting, and that's usually how it happens because I have the same information everybody else does when I start out. I'm sort of trying to get the feeling for what they look like, but with Luke, he had this very sort of babyish face, very young looking, and he was young, and I don't know, I just sort of saw him as sort of a combination of like Dennis the Menace and I don't know, I can't remember, like Dennis the Menace and Calvin and Hobbes or something like that. I don't know what it was, but I felt like I drew him the first time in the diner, and that's how he came out, and he really didn't change. He really didn't change much. And I because I knew I wanted to draw him as a young kid as a joke, and it was just going to be like the one panel, like this little kid is becoming mayor. It was just going to be that one day, and then everybody thought it was so funny that
you couldn't let it go.
I thought, and then I started. I thought I'm on to something here, so I kept doing it, and then I thought, well, maybe he'll.
Grow in
office, and people ask me. They say, "Well, is he ever going to grow up?" And I say, "Well, you'll have to ask him," because he kept at every turn he would do something that would prove that he had not really matured that much or had learned much about.
One of your cutest, I just adored it, was your takeoff on the Family Circus.
The Family Circus, yeah.
Cartoon. Remember, who's that? Billy.
Little Billy.
And the Family Circus, and then sometimes they would have these map.
Right. They would have a little dotted line of all the places Billy went when he was supposed to be going straight to the store or to school or to mail a letter or something.
Yeah, right.
And they would show him going over the jungle gym and through the neighbor's yard and all that stuff. Yeah.
So you did one with Luke, which I just thought was hysterical.
Yeah, and I had him doing all the things that
he had done
already, and that was only like I don't remember how soon that was, but it was almost like about a year and a half, and he'd already
done all kinds of bad things that he wasn't supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And how quickly we forget those things.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're big stories at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Taking SUV SUV to a Toby Keith concert, right?
Yeah, with his friends, and then he accepted the airplane ride to New York from the Penguins.
From Brinkle, the
owner of the Penguins.
Yeah, right. Here's something I just loved when I was going through it. Okay, so Sophie is in the diner with Rosie. Mm-hmm. Do you know a lot of people think that you modeled Rosie after me?
I know, and that's I mean.
Well, and then I looked at how you draw her and how you draw me, and there's a difference. He gives me a hook nose. You anti-Semitic jerk off. Yeah, I got a hook nose. She's got a straight nose, and she's got no particular chin.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I didn't give you a hook
Yes, you did.
Not really.
That's a hook.
No, it isn't.
There's no difference between the hook nose and my chin. You give me...
Yeah, that's right. The chin and the nose follow the same trajectory.
There's this big chin that comes out like this. And Rosie doesn't have a chin like that.
No,
so
she doesn't have
I'm
a
just
chin,
telling you, I am not Rosie. I was so excited when I was first drawn by Rob, and I showed it to my father. I said, "Dad, look, Rogers drew this guy," and he was
he was ready to come and beat me up.
He was going to kill you. He was going to kill you. He says, "Why, that's an outrage," he said. "He's made you ugly." I said, "Well, Dad, it's not. It's a But here's something I like of Sophie. And here's where you kept bringing her back.
Yeah.
This is 1910. This is 2010.
2010, okay.
So she's out of office.
Right.
Yeah. But and how happy you must have been when you saw it. She wrote a letter to the editor. This is page 45.
Here's that Family Circus one I found.
Here's the here.
Oops,
I can hold it
go
up.
That way.
The Family Circus one is a riot.
Well, yeah, there you go.
Wait. I can't. Yeah, but you can't.
You can't read it, but that's all right. Yeah, there you go.
It's a riot. A riot.
Don't hurt yourself.
So, I love this line. This is so smart. So, Sophie's at the diner, and she says, "Hi, Sophie. I saw your letter in the paper about the arena." Mm-hmm. And apparently she had written saying, "Tear it down." Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember that?
No, I really don't. But she came out for tearing it down, which was surprising.
Well, and the Syrian mosque was torn down under her. Yeah,
which was big to do.
Yeah, really bad.
And still is, if you think about it, since there's still been nothing.
That's just
built on that
flat parking lot. Yeah, it's horrible.
And who would be behind that? UPMC.
Yeah, but what did they gain? They didn't gain anything. A parking lot?
Real estate.
Yeah, I guess so.
Some really pricey real estate.
They haven't done anything with it, so.
Screw them. Okay, so Sophie's sitting there, and Rosie says, I saw your letter in the paper, and Sophie says, it's just time to close the roof on this subject. And Rosie says, but it's a 50-year-old engineering marvel. And Sophie says, so is my girdle. But no one is fighting to preserve that. I love that line.
Thank you. Well, what was great about her is that in the same way that I could put words into Luke's mouth that a little kid would say, I could put things in her mouth that that an old Jewish grandmother would say. Right. I mean, really. I mean, let's be honest. But then also, the other brilliant thing about Sophie was she occasionally made malapropisms, but then she started doing it on purpose. Like,
she did say she did it?
Yeah, there were a couple where she definitely did it on purpose.
What do you think the Dreadful Dead?
The Dreadful Dead.
The Dreadful Dead. That was not
Bruce
Spring.
Bed Spring or something. Yeah. I think one of those must have been. I mean, I can't imagine.
Bed Spring seems a little.
Yeah.
You got to put your headphones on because we've got a call.
Okay. Is it on here?
Yeah, I think we'll find out. Hello?
Yes, Clarence from Canada.
Do you hear it? Wait, we got to get Rob's. Hello?
There we go.
Okay.
Hey, can you?
Yes,
can you hear me now?
This is a fellow cartoonist. This is Clarence.
Okay.
From Canonsburg.
From Canonsburg.
Yes.
Yeah, Rob's one of those guys I really admire.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, because not only is his cartooning done well, he always hits stuff on the head.
Yeah, right on the nose. Yeah.
And for the longest time, it might have happened after Gamage. He did a strip or whatever that said, "Drop your pigmentation and no one gets hurt."
Oh yeah.
For the longest time, I had it I cut it out of the paper, and I had it hanging, like pinned to my little board in my, and I lost it.
Oh.
But recently, I've been wanting to put that. I've been looking all over the internet. I've been wanting to put that up because it's still.
It's still. Think of that. 30 years later, practically.
It's incredible. But it was like right on the nose. Just drop your pigmentation and no one gets hurt. I've been looking all over for that. So I'm trying to.
Do you think you have it?
Oh, I have a copy of it. If you email me, I'll send you a link. I mean, I'll send you a copy of it.
Oh, I was expecting that. Yeah, that's really cool.
Sure. Yeah, because I have them all archived on my computer. They're all scanned in somewhere. So that one I think is in my book, my other book.
Your other book.
Your other book, yeah. I've been searching all over for that thing.
Well, you've come to the source now, Clarence.
Yeah. I was like happy. Like, oh, that's Rob. I could probably, I was going to just say, I'm a friend of Lynn Cullen, so maybe you can send me.
I don't know if that'll necessarily get you anywhere. That could be a detriment to your efforts.
But since I don't even have to pull that out of my hat,
no.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll send you an email. I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, if you just Google my name, you can get my website, which is just robrogers.com, and the email is there. So there you go. All right.
Great, thanks. Clarence. Thanks.
Thanks for the call.
Clarence has done cartoons of me.
Oh, he has. Yeah.
They're much more flattering. I just want to say, my father wouldn't mind those. So. You mention how the style of drawing people like George W. Bush, how the ears got bigger, the eyes got beadier. Mm-hmm. I noticed just in looking through this book, starting at the beginning and going through, that I think your stuff has changed.
Oh yeah.
Now I don't know how to explain it, except I just wrote to myself that. It just seems more sparse. There was a lot more that's not what you would say. There's a lot more detail and stuff, and I don't know. It just seems it's more sparse.
Well, I think that it depends on which cartoon you're talking about, but I did start to become more have more of an economy of line and try to sort of minimize where your eye would go so that it was it hit you immediately, and there was there was
so
more of a. I mean, that doesn't apply to Brood on Grant, of course, because that's always been very simple but multi-paneled, so there's a lot of words. But yeah, the early cartoons, you can see I was into doing like little things in the background, and
now you've let that go.
Well, I mean,
because you say it draws the eye away from what you want.
Sometimes, I mean, like if I'm doing a crowd scene, there's a lot of drawing. I mean, there's a lot of people, and so I get back into that. Some of it's just time. I mean, right now, like I have a certain number of hours to get it done, and now that I'm doing color every day, it takes another.
I was just going to ask you.
Yeah, another
the
hour.
The color
and
takes
a half.
more because you've got to. You got to color.
And I still got to get it done by 5 o'clock. So.
How many do you have to do in a week?
6 a week. Yeah, I do one on Sunday too for Monday's paper. Yeah, I know.
That's
crazy.
Too much. A columnist doesn't do 6 columns a week.
No, that's true. That's true.
How the hell are you 6 a week?
I know. Well, that's part of that was because I was syndicated already, so I was doing 4 for the syndicate, and those have to be national, and so they wanted at least 2 local. So it's not a problem. I mean, I get why it should happen because local cartoons are very important, and I believe in that. So I'm, if I wanted to, I could cut one of those syndicated ones off and do 5. But of course now everybody's used to me doing 6, so they'd be like, "What happened?"
Where is it? Well, at your book launch, there was this guy who said to you, "I turned to on Thursdays." And I'm thinking, why Thursdays?
No, he meant Wednesday. He meant Wednesdays.
Oh, so he
for
got
Brood
the day
on
wrong.
Grant.
Oh,
yeah.
for Brood on Grant. That's what he was after.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. So, just as Sophie was a gift from heaven and Luke a gift from heaven to an editorial cartoonist, a guy like Caligari.
Yeah.
And even Bill Peduto. At this point.
Yeah.
They're not easy. You know why?
No.
Because they're competent.
Right.
And there's nothing particularly, even facially or what. There's just nothing there to do anything with.
Yeah, I mean, Peduto's a little. Caligari was, I can forgive myself when I look at some of the caricatures of Caligari, although they were okay, they were fine, but it was early for me, and so I was
you were a kid,
still trying to find my caricaturing chops, and then with Peduto, I think you're right. He's a little tougher. He's sort of plain looking, but he's already accused me of. He said, the TV adds 5 pounds, but Rob Rogers adds 20.
Wonder if anyone in his family has threatened to beat you up.
I don't think so.
Well, and he's very sensitive about his weight.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean.
So back off. Give him a little bit of a diet. Okay, here's another problem.
I never did with Bill Clinton. I started to draw him in his sort of chubby phase, and then when he lost all that weight, I was like, too late.
Are you kidding? He's like a wraith.
Yeah,
now.
he really is.
He's like.
I still draw him with a little bit of, doughboyish, kind of Pillsbury doughboy kind of look to him.
Okay, so I'm looking at a cartoon from 2004.
Okay.
It's Sophie again. Brood on Grant. 2004, if you'll recall, was the convention that nominated John Kerry.
Yes, John Kerry.
But the guy who stole that convention was the keynote speaker. And the first time I'd never seen this guy before. Oh, was he not the keynote? Maybe Bill Clinton was the keynote.
I don't think he was the keynote, but he
he stole the thing. And it was a guy, some Illinois senator named Barack Obama.
All right.
And he gave a speech that just blew everybody out of the water. And I remember thinking when I looked at him,
yeah, I did too. I thought
I might be I'm looking at the first black president of the United States. You had that same feeling. I mean, this guy was he was unbelievable. So anyway, Sophie, who had been going to the Democratic Convention since 1872, had never missed one. She's there, and you have her talking about seeing all the people there.
Right.
But she says in this one thing, and did you see Barack Osama? I guess not. all Al Qaeda are bad.
I mean, yeah.
2004.
Well, that was 2004, and think about what people are saying about him today. Like he's a Muslim.
He's a Muslim. Think about that.
Isn't that crazy?
Isn't
I had
that
no
amazing?
idea that. Obviously his name Obama sounds like Osama. So I was just making her. It was one of her malapropisms that just worked out.
I know. But you know what? In the course of I called him Osama once because the two were Obama, Osama, and
he has the middle name.
Yeah,
Hussein.
I know, Hussein. Right. I mean, how could...
Barack Saddam Hussein.
Yeah, I know.
Osama.
Barack Saddam Hussein Osama. I mean, no, you can see why people who don't pay a lot of attention think he's a Muslim terrorist.
Right.
Jeez. But, yes, I remember a few times. But then you have her saying in 2008 when her doctor said, Sophie, you can't go.
You can't go anymore.
You can't go. Hey, it's just too much for you. And she's crying because she doesn't go to get to the convention.
Right.
And she says to Rosie, did Bahama say he missed me?
Yeah. So it's Bahama. So at least she's not calling him, Osama anymore.
No, but he's moved on to Bahama. So you were saying before, I think Clarence called, that her malaprops were
gold.
were gold, but also often she was fully aware of what she was doing.
Well,
although she never let on that she was.
I don't think she ever let on, but I think that I read somewhere, and maybe I'm making this up in my head, but I read somewhere that her line about that's like remember at the debate.
Oh, that's like calling Lucchino. She's in the running with all these people. Everybody think they're going to knock her out. This is the first time she has to run for mayor after having ascended to the job with the death of Caligiuri. And every Democrat, including some who then go on
ugly.
to be mayor,
Yeah.
Lucchino said something about her fundraising or something that was
about a negative campaign.
A negative campaign ad.
Yeah.
And she did say this. This was quick.
Yeah, and she said that's like being called ugly by a frog. Saying that Lucchino had
baby,
plenty of negative campaign. Negative campaigning tactics. But the thing that I heard somewhere was that was a line that
they thought of and they were ready to go
like ahead of time.
Yeah.
As a funny little quip that she could throw in there, and
she used it well.
She used it very well because that became
the
what
thing,
everybody
and then
remembered.
And then all you ever had Lucchino saying was ribbit.
Yeah. So at the end there's a cartoon of the debate, and he's saying ribbit at the end. Everybody's got something else to say, and then I also had him in another cartoon when she wins the race.
Much to everybody's astonishment, right?
The surprise. I have her leapfrogging over Lucchino, who's drawn as a frog.
Who's drawn as a frog, right? I mean, the establishment in this town never accepted that she was a legitimate mayor.
Right. Yeah.
They just couldn't look at this red-haired, raspy voice.
Yeah,
Jewish
they couldn't take her seriously.
They could not take her seriously. I was talking to her granddaughter at... nice.
Jennifer, yeah.
Nice. And the granddaughter said she thought that there should be a statue of Sophie.
Oh, interesting.
And I think there should be, too.
That would be good.
And where would you put it? And I came up with...
You came up with an idea? Okay.
PNC Park.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, with holding a bat.
Yeah. Holding her handbag.
Right, yeah.
Right, yeah. But you know what? You should do the statue. I mean, it should be
the cartoon.
The cartoon
with the beehive hair.
With the beehive hair.
And little pirate hat on top, yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, she would like that. And really, I do have a cartoon in here about about her, coming up with the idea for the stadiums, because she was the one that did it first, and then
everybody just ridiculed.
Yeah. And in fact, the cartoon is a 2-panel one of her saying.
It's a takeoff on "Build It," and they will. What was the name of that?
Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams.
Yeah, so she's saying she's in a cornfield and she's saying if you build it, or she's listening and it says if you build it, and then it says you got to be nuts. Where will people park? Who will pay for it? What about Three Rivers Stadium?
Yeah.
And so, so the cornfield was criticizing her. Even the cornfield.
Oh man.
No, she was great. She was a lot of fun to draw.
So what happens to you when you like these guys? I mean, I think you mentioned, is it Tom Murphy?
Yeah, Tom. I met him.
Tom Murphy was like someone you knew.
Yeah.
You liked.
I had met him through friends earlier, before when he was still in Harrisburg, right?
I think he was in the house. Yeah.
And already he was sort of talking about how to fix up the north side and all of this, and riding his bike. I saw him riding his bike one day, so there was already, and he was a really nice guy. And actually my brother, who's 10 years younger than me, he went to school with their daughter.
Huh.
They were in the same school together. So
you felt like you were.
Yeah. It was sort of like they would drop their kid off at, for a party at my dad's house or whatever. But there was definitely a connection there. And
so what happened?
And
so he gets to be mayor, and what?
So what happened was I was harder on him than I probably would have been if I hadn't known him, because I felt like I can't let my my friendship, or whatever you want to call it. We weren't close friends or anything like that. But I felt like, I had to be, more critical, or approach it with more critical of an eye than I would have if I didn't know him at all. And that's how I prefer it, is not knowing them at all, really.
Right, because it frees you.
Because it frees me up to say whatever whatever I feel is the right thing to say, and not clouded by any kind of feeling I might have about the person,
So what did that do to your? See, I don't remember if you remember Ann Devlin.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Ann once came up with the perfect adjective for him when
Murphy?
he was mayor.
Yeah.
Peevish.
Peevish?
Okay, see, Rob's not going to agree. We got a call. We'll come back to
all
that.
right.
Hello, caller.
Good morning, Lynn. It's Dave from Washington.
Hi, Dave from Washington.
Sorry to interrupt your little conversation there, but Sophie Masloff, I love the woman, and for years and years and years, I've had the perfect thing we should do in the city for Sophie. A giant talking Sophie head.
Oh, jeez.
Put it in the river.
Yeah,
like the West End Bridge or something.
Like the Big Duck. Yeah, I like that idea. Remember?
And it starts out, it's just her head from the bottom of her nose up, like she's in the water, and then it rises up slowly, and it screams out a Sophieism across the point. Scratch my back with a hacksaw! And then it lowers back down into the water. It looks all around. And then it rises back up. Something else.
I think that was a hockey thing, not hers, but she said.
That was at the
what's
91
his name?
Penguins Stanley Cup.
Yeah, what is it? who's the guy that did,
God.
The announcer?
Mike Lang.
Oh, Mike Lang. Yeah, that was
right.
Mike Lang.
But she would repeat
say,
it.
"Scratch your eyes out." No,
she would say, "Oh, you're right. I'll scratch your eyes out."
Yeah, I don't remember hearing her say with a scratch
with a hacksaw.
the hacksaw.
The one big thing.
Yeah.
But giant talking Sophie head that's half immersed in the water, then comes up and yells something, and then goes back. Sits there for 30 seconds.
Or the other thing is, her hair would make the perfect balloon, so she could be like a hot air balloon,
just sort of floating around
above
the city.
Yeah,
that'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, Tim Manise used to draw her as
Mary Poppins, sort of. Right?
Yeah, it was. I want to say Mayor Poppins.
Mayor Poppins.
It was not
Mayor
Poppins,
not Mary. But she was always floating.
And she had a little umbrella, and she would float around the city. So that could be another way to do it.
I do think the city has to do something for Sophie Masloff.
They do.
She was a great mayor. I think she left a deficit, a surplus, didn't she?
I don't know about
not
that.
Sure
She had
about
a
that.
balanced budget every year or something she was very proud of.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, whatever. We got to do something for Sophie. There's no statues. There's no plaques. There's no streets that I know of. And, yeah, over by PNC Park. She proposed that in the late 80s,
Yeah.
and people thought it was the stupidest thing ever.
And look at
it now.
It's now the North Shore.
Yep. Clementi Fields. She wants.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You know, okay, so Tom Murphy was mayor during a very, I mean, as you read the Murphy cartoons, you're
Right.
reminded of,
Yeah, it was a very contentious
it
time.
was a really not good time in this town. There was a lot of crap going on.
Yeah, and he was, he had his heart was in the right place, I think, and so a lot of the things that he wanted to do, I kind of agreed with. I just didn't necessarily agree with how he was proposing it. Like he
The
wanted
whole
to do
downtown
the whole
redevelopment.
Fifth and Forbes
Corridor.
I mean, that makes sense when you look at someplace like Chicago. And so you would sort of immediately think, well, if we built that, the people would come to it. But we've seen now, especially now, it has played out that it's not true necessarily. And so it's probably a really good thing we didn't end up doing it. But even you look at what he did with Saks. I mean, that's gone.
With Lord and Taylor.
Lord and Taylor, right?
I mean,
yeah.
destroyed
that's right, Lord
that
and Taylor.
beautiful
That's what I know.
building.
I know that old bank building.
And then there's a cartoon you have in here that says something that I didn't even realize. He proposed tearing down 70 buildings.
Yeah, they were with eminent domain.
With
yeah.
eminent domain.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
really going to sort of and you said half of them were built, were 19th century,
Right.
built before the 19th century.
Yeah.
So architectural integrity be damned. He was, oh my God.
Yeah, I mean that was the part that I think everybody was upset about, and I think that and he would probably be able to speak to it more than I can, but I felt like that was a betrayal of the city's history, and no, I don't think, like, a lot of those buildings are still empty. I mean, some of them, when you look around downtown, there are some empty buildings that are just being wasted.
Right.
But tearing them down is not the right idea, because then you lose a lot of
You
the
lose
old
the whole
architecture
character,
and the character. Yeah.
Or you end up like the East End's looking.
Yeah.
You end up with a bunch of ticky-tack crapola buildings that are it's called progress.
Oh, you mean East Liberty? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is getting
Name
that
me
way.
one good-looking building that's been built.
None. Yeah.
One's uglier than the next.
Yeah.
I think it looks like, I keep saying it looks like East Germany.
Yeah, but I see, like, with what they did with the Warhol, with that old Volkines building. I mean,
Yes.
I thought that was the way to go.
Yes.
If you can do things on the inside, but
Keep the facade at
the
least.
facade, yeah.
Exactly. Ansel wants to know, when you publish a cartoon that really touches a nerve and consequently generates some backlash, how do you handle that? Do you just ignore it, or do you attempt to address it? In these days with social media, people have many ways. Oh, jeez.
That is the truth.
Oh, man.
For the most part, I don't get involved in sort of these tirades on social media, because I don't.
Do you even look?
Oh, I look. Yeah, I look from time to
It
time.
can ruin your day, though.
It does. It does
can.
sometimes,
So don't.
yeah. But before that I was getting lots of letters from people, negative letters. So and they print a lot of them in the paper. So I already had a thick skin about that stuff, and I feel like that's part of I'm inviting people to do that when I publish these cartoons, because I'm sharing my opinion, and usually it's acerbic, and usually it's trying to get a rise out of somebody about something, and so I don't mind that they do it. I mean, I do mind if they say things. A lot of times they say things like, "Oh, why don't you just give up? You can't draw. You can't." And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. I spent a lot of time on that drawing. Come on. I mean, you can criticize the content, but don't be,
Don't say I didn't put any effort
yeah.
into it or don't know what I'm doing.
Right. So those kind of things I take offense to, but people that disagree with me, I'm fine with that. And the only time I'll really engage with them, because I just don't have time. I mean, there's just so many people out there writing things. But if they address me particularly or call me specifically at the paper, although now I don't even work at the building, but
You don't.
No, but they'll relay if somebody wants to talk to me. Most of the time, the angry readers do not want to talk to me. They want to talk to my editor so they can get me fired.
Yeah.
But they don't really have any interest in talking to me and hearing what I was trying to say with the cartoon or discuss the politics of it.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to complain, and so that's fine. They do, and once in a while, I'll get an email from the editor, and he says, "Hey, this person, I think it'd be worth calling them back and talking to them about the cartoon." And they're always pleasantly surprised when I call, and they say, "Oh, thank you for calling." And
Do you have to take a stiff drink before you make those calls? That can't be fun.
I can't say on the air because my editor might be listening.
So how unhappy, I'm going to take Ansel's question one further. How unhappy are you when you do a cartoon which you think is great and your editor says, no, ain't running this?
Very upset. And I mean, there's a bit of a degree to which that I've been doing this long enough now, 30 years, that I understand the ebb and flow, and I understand that the publisher is the final word. And so, if I don't get a Pope cartoon in this week, maybe I'll get one in next week.
Okay, is there a Catholic in the town that doesn't want your head?
Well, no, that's, there are Catholics who come up to me all the time and say, thank you for saying that because, we agree with you. And they
Don't you love this Pope?
They shouldn't take everything so seriously. Yes, I do. I do love this Pope. But I think that, it does upset me. But what kind of upsets me even more than my publisher killing it, because it is his newspaper, and it upsets me more when a controversy arises from a cartoon that I draw that had nothing to do with that. You know what I mean? Like, that's a little more upsetting. For instance, I got into a lot of trouble and people calling me anti-Semitic.
I knew that's where you were going.
Yeah, when I was, and also
I forget what cartoon. Oh, it was the Palestinian thing, and you had him in. Yeah.
The Gaza Strip.
The Gaza Strip, right?
And
I have to tell you, I didn't like that cartoon.
Well, that's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah,
I
that's
agree.
fine.
I agree. That's fine.
But you didn't think it was anti-Semitic, did you?
No, I know you.
Yeah. I mean.
But if you don't know you and you don't like that cartoon,
and if you're ready to see something anti-Semitic,
exactly.
you can find it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's true. And
but that was ugly, huh?
Yeah, that was ugly. And then the other thing that happened, I actually lost a freelance job because of that. That had nothing to do with Israel. It was a medical journal that I was working for, and they were upset. Because the story went national, and I got a lot of flack.
Did?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize.
And
that.
the cartoon actually ran outside of Detroit, where there's another organization up there, pro-Israel organization, got upset, and it was one of my syndicated papers that ran it, and so I was getting it from two different areas, from Pittsburgh and from there, and it ended up making the news. And so this freelance job that I had, they called up and said, well,
you're too hot.
Yeah, that's right.
You're too hot.
Well,
You're
some
too
of the people on
controversial.
the board
We have
were
Jewish people on
pro-Israel,
there, right? We can't have it.
And they were upset
Wow.
about it, and so I just think that's kind of cowardly, and that kind of hurts, because I feel like people claim they want to, they want free speech in this country, but do they really? No, they don't really. They want, as long as whatever people are saying, fits their political view.
I'm glad you just mentioned that, because I wanted to say, how do you? I'm very upset, and I was with some people from the ACLU this weekend, and I was talking to a woman who is a professor in the center of the state somewhere, and she was saying how it drives her crazy now that the students don't seem to understand what the First Amendment's about. Mm-hmm. That speech, if it makes you unhappy, tough.
Yeah, right.
That speech, if you don't like it, or it absolutely contradicts everything you feel, you can't shut it down. And a lot of this now attempt to stifle speech is coming from the left.
Yeah. No, that's
From
true.
the left.
That's true.
Something's gone wrong here.
Yeah, I don't know if it's coming from the left particularly, but I think that there is a melding of things and where it's getting mixed up because you're right. I mean, one of the things that's happening on these campuses is they're upset about racist views and
Right.
these kinds of things, and so if there's somebody that's controversial that's coming in to speak, they'll try to shut them down,
That's
or,
right.
or get
That's
them
right.
out.
That's right.
Rather than listen to what they have to say and,
That's right.
and then maybe engage in a discussion. But then again, when you think about the '60s war protests on campus and that kind of thing, that was them. The protests are also free speech. So how do you tell these kids, don't try to stifle free speech, but even if your free speech is protesting somebody else's free speech, it gets complicated. It really does.
Yes, it gets complicated.
Because the other thing is, you don't want
the
you don't
minute
want
you start
offensive
squelching
speech.
somebody's speech, it's that classic
I
first
agree.
they came for,
I
then
agree.
they came for.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
No, you can't.
And I just saw this in the New York Times yesterday. The University of Wisconsin, the regents there, had actually held a vote to adopt a resolution stating that the University of Wisconsin should not shield people from ideas or opinions they find unwelcome or offensive.
They shouldn't
No.
shield them. Yeah, that's
No.
good. That's good.
That's what.
Yeah.
But they did this as a bunch of students stood there saying, you are racist, there is black, We're... I think it's political correctness run amok is what I really think is happening. I do. I didn't even mean
You
to
stole that from Donald Trump. Listen to you. Political correctness run amok. Look at you. You and Donald have something in common.
Come on. No,
Well,
I do.
I do think that there is, yes, I think political correctness, if you want to call it that, or this idea that we should, stifle any kind of speech is definitely wrong. But
Do you watch South Park?
yeah, sometimes. I haven't seen it lately.
Well,
but,
I got to tell you.
Okay.
I watched the first. Their season just ended, and some people are saying it's the greatest season ever.
Ever? Oh, wow.
Watch the first. South Park is taken over by the politically correct,
Oh, okay. All
and
right.
it shows. It
Yeah.
is brilliant.
Yeah.
It does the sort of turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
It has like frat boys enforcing political correctness.
Well, I do think that we have let political correctness, which I think was a noble idea, sort of in the way that we
agree.
no longer use these racial slurs. We no longer use homophobic or any kind of
That's
you know,
right. That's
things,
right.
things
Right.
because we don't want to do that. But at the same time, we need to allow that to exist because that's for those people that are going to say it, because that's free speech. So we can't like completely eliminate it, but we can say
It's getting away from free speech into free thought. That's where my
Right.
problem is. Somebody says something, I think this. Oh, I know. In the South Park episode,
Yeah.
one of the kids says, I don't think Caitlyn Jenner is a hero.
interesting.
Okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he is
Yeah.
assaulted. I
Okay.
mean, like all hell breaks. It's stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Speech becomes there's a fascistic element
Right,
going
right,
on where you
yeah.
can't have a thought that you express without fear of
retribution. Yeah.
of the mob, the white right thinking mob coming at you.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with you. I agree with that. We just did an exhibit at the Toonseum this summer, about with showing a lot of the responses to the Charlie Hebdo massacre and talking about
Yes.
free speech and the First Amendment and all of that. And I think it's a very important topic, and we need to be able to, we need to be able to discuss anything.
Because if Charlie Hebdo was anything, it was offensive.
Oh, it was very offensive.
It was disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean,
it
I
was.
wouldn't want it.
It was.
Their stuff was disgusting.
Yes, it was very disgusting, and yet at the same time, in the same way that we have to protect, one of the heroes of free speech and satire is Larry Flint. Because he won that case with the Supreme Court.
Right.
Now that doesn't mean that I think that Penthouse
is a
or
great
Hustler rather
Hustler is a great publication. Right.
Hustler was a great publication, or that any of the jokes in there were worthy.
See,
but at the same time,
here's the thing. It's easy to be for free speech. And this is what got me onto this, because you said something like, it's easy to be for free speech when the speech is what you
agree with. Right, exactly.
You know that you really understand the First Amendment if you are willing to say, I hate everything you stand for, everything you are saying. It offends the hell out of me.
But I would die to protect your right to say it. Yeah, exactly.
And there aren't a lot of people right now who comprehend
who feel that. Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's like, we had Ku Klux Klan people marching not that long ago in parades in Pittsburgh, and to me that's offensive, but at the same time, I would protect their right to do it, because as offensive and as mind-blowing as that is, that they would do that. That is sort of the bedrock of free speech, is what you're talking about. We can't pick and choose.
Didn't you have a cartoon about Sophie with her hair being a Christmas tree?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Was that about not having? Well, again, was that a First Amendment thing?
It was, because if you remember, on the city-county building steps, they would always have the Christmas tree and sometimes the
they
had
a creche.
Yeah.
That went to the Supreme Court of the United States. That creche.
Right, and so
it ain't there anymore.
No, it's not there anymore. But somehow a Christmas tree, even though that was to some was offensive, that one was allowed. But yeah, she actually decided not to have the Christmas tree one year, until the Supreme Court did something, and so I had the hair, her whole sort of beehive hairdo with all the Christmas ornaments on it, and that was one of my favorite cartoons.
I love that cartoon. And you know what she did?
It's early on, I think.
You know what else she did that was so wonderful? Remember when, to save money, she put the 4th of July on the 3rd? Do you remember that?
Yes. That was bizarre. Yeah.
All these, and she took such crap. Okay. It's too bad that one's not in.
Yeah.
Okay, you can sort of see. That's Sophie and her hair.
This was before I did color. Yeah. So that was. Yeah.
Well, that brings us actually to this from Roger. A few years ago, my wife and I were shopping in the Strip, and traffic on Penn came to a halt. Trying to see what was going on, I noticed a great big boat of a car trying to back out of an alley.
I can tell where this is going.
Right. A big boat of a car trying to back out of an alley. Completely holding up the possibility of any movement on the street. Seeing nothing was going to happen unless someone acted like a traffic cop, I got out of my car and proceeded to direct the tiny, flaming, red-haired driver out of the alley onto Penn Avenue. And before she took off, the window wound down, and I got a very pleasant but grating "thank you" that only Sophie and Jim Krenn could produce. Needless to say, it made mine and my wife's day. Who doesn't smile when they think of Sophie? Are there any other mayors known only by their first name? Luke.
Well, Luke, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess you could say that, but Sophie more so. Yeah.
No, she. You know what? My favorite story of Sophie is the Bill Clinton call.
Oh, right.
Did you?
Yes, the Queen of Sheba. Yeah, and I'm the Queen of Sheba.
For those of you who don't know it, I mean, what? It was right after she was. I think when she won the election.
Right. Yes.
Bill Clinton's president, and he decides he's going to call Sophie and say, "Hey, Soph,
yeah, congratulations,
way to go!"
Yeah.
So phone rings, and he says, "Sophie, hi, it's Bill Clinton." Yeah, and I'm the Queen of Sheba, and hangs up.
Yeah.
He calls back, Sophie.
That's the best.
Aw.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
Okay, so How long are you going to do this? Are you ever going to get, I mean, do you still have fire in the belly?
Oh,
or-
yeah. I have a lot of
yeah.
fire in the belly, as you probably do, too.
Yeah, but you know what? Things seem so awful.
I know. It's like...
That it's, I mean, you don't want to bring people down, you know. How do you address the world and not, you know, I do this hour, and I know poor Celine has said that there are days when, you know, she leaves having had to listen to me for an hour. And she wants to go, you know, jump out the window.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
so what do you,
You know,
because your job is not only to be, how much is your job to have, not all your things are funny.
No, they're
but
not.
humor is.
But humor is part of it, and I think that what people come up to me and say that makes it worthwhile to me is that they come up and say, "You're the only thing that makes all of this horrible news, livable." Because I find a way to get some humor out of it, and if we don't laugh at it, then we're going to go down a dark hole, and. Because I mean, you think of all of the tragic situations. Even during the Depression, people were making movies that were funny, and they were comedy was a big part of it.
Well, it's the way. That's right.
It's the way. It's sort of helps us all feel that we can that there's hope and that we can be resilient. If we can laugh at something, then we're not dead yet, And I think that really is. Part of what I feel like I'm doing is helping people kind of get their news, but get a laugh in there too.
That's what I do sometimes too.
You do.
I know. So I'm telling you, someone who loves Pittsburgh and wants to be reminded of where we've been.
I know.
The last
it's
30.
Crazy, isn't it?
It is. This is really a wonderful history book, and it is available.
It is available. You can get it on my website if you're not close to downtown. But probably the best place to get it is at the Toonseum. That's 945 Liberty Avenue. They're open from 11 to 5 Thursday through Sunday, and there are some signed copies there. It's $20. And if you do it on the website, it takes a couple of weeks for me to package it up and get it out to you. So,
Okay.
But either way, you can get it. You can get it either way. Yeah.
Okay. At your website.
Yeah, robrogers.com. And it's also available through the PG store. So you can go on the PG store if you want to give half the money to them. That's fine.
No, don't do that.
No.
Don't do that.
No, you should. You should. They pay my salary. I like the PG.
Okay,
Yeah,
but robrogers.com
But if
or
you-
the
yeah.
Toonseum, which would get you down there so you could look
Yeah.
at this wonderful facility,
Yeah.
which you have.
It's a great facility. We have a Darth Vader and Friends exhibit right now, which is these lovely drawings by Jeffrey Brown about he did a kids book called Darth Vader and Friends, where he has Darth Vader as if he was a parent, I am your father, that kind of thing.
Yes,
but it's a children's book, and it's very popular. So we have that, and we have a James Bond exhibit too. So worth checking out.
It's definitely. And also worth checking out is the fact that I personally
She wrote the foreword.
And it says right here in Sophie's hair, foreword by Lynn Cullen.
And it's a marvelous foreword. Thank you, Lynn, for doing that for me.
Oh, it's so much
And
fun.
I included the cartoon that your father hates in there.
Yes, you did. So yet again, I'm glad
So you got
he
me-
won't be around to see it this time. Poor Dad. Okay, so, geez, a million thanks. And,
Oh, sure.
And he said he's going to keep doing it, so we can all rest assured that at least we'll have Rob to get us through this.
That's right. Yeah.
And you said otherwise we'll go down a black hole. I think we've been in the black hole for a long time.
Yeah, you may
actually.
be right. You may be right. But
So.
all right.
And wait,
Well,
you just won a big national award.
I did. I won the Berryman Cartooning Award, which is pretty prestigious. Yeah, very nice. It came with a nice paycheck.
Oh, it did?
Yeah, and they're going to fly me to Washington next February, I guess, and to receive it. So,
Oh,
it's
don't
the
you like?
National Press Foundation Award.
Oh, so well, that's like an Oscar then. It's getting it from your
from
own.
from your own people. Yeah, yeah, it's nice, very nice. And I've
you
never
don't-
won this one. I've won a couple of other national awards, but
we gotta. I want the
and I haven't
friggin'
won the big one.
Pulitzer.
I haven't won the big one yet.
You've been a finalist, but
I
we
have.
need you to get it.
All
I don't
right.
understand. What the
I don't know. You'll have to talk to the committee.
I will. Who decides? What bunch of idiots. Idiots. I'm telling you. This is Pulitzer right here. Okay, but so don't you like awards that come with a page?
Oh, I do.
check?
Yeah, it's very nice. Very nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Way to go, Rob. You
Thank
can
you.
take me out to dinner sometime.
I do owe you dinner for doing
Yeah,
the
you
forward.
do.
Yeah.
You do. So please, what a great gift for a political junkie.
Yeah,
I mean it. It's just
definitely.
wonderful. Had a ball reading this. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll do it again in 23 hours. Hope you can join us then. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.